Lu Sheng sat at his wooden desk, his head heavy as the teacher's voice droned on like a distant hum. His classmates whispered and giggled, casting sidelong glances at the boy who could do nothing but sleep through every lecture. For Lu Sheng, the sleep wasn't a choice but a desperate escape from the exhaustion that clawed at his bones every single day. As his eyelids finally fluttered shut, the familiar darkness of the classroom was replaced by a landscape of utter ruin. He stood amidst a scorched wasteland where the air tasted of ash and the sky was a bruised shade of purple. A low guttural growl echoed from behind a pile of twisted metal, signaling the start of the nightly hunt. A zombie, its flesh hanging in gray tatters, lunged at him with a speed that defied its rotting form. Lu Sheng acted on instinct, pivoting his body to avoid the snap of decaying jaws against his neck. He grabbed a jagged stone from the ground and smashed it against the creature's skull with a sickening crack. As the monster fell limp, a stream of black energy flowed from its corpse and surged into Lu Sheng's chest. Images flashed before his eyes, the zombie's former life, its rigorous martial training, and its final moments of despair. Lu Sheng clutched his head as decades of combat experience were forcibly etched into his neural pathways. When the pain subsided, he felt a strange strength coiling in his muscles, more potent than anything he had felt in reality. Suddenly, another monster ambushed him from the shadows, its movements precise and calculated. Without thinking, Lu Sheng executed a perfect countermove, tearing the beast apart with a strength that felt alien yet familiar. He realized with a jolt that this world was not just a dream, but a glimpse of a future 10,000 years away. Every monster he killed here provided him with foundational techniques that were thousands of times more advanced than modern martial arts. Just as he prepared to explore further, a sudden weight hit him, and the world dissolved into the gray ceiling of his bedroom. He checked his phone, realizing that only an hour had passed in the real world despite the eternity he spent fighting. A familiar voice called out from behind his door, shattering his concentration. His younger sister, Lu Xinghe, stood there with her hands on her hips, looking unimpressed by her lazy brother. She told him to hurry for dinner and stopped mid-sentence when she saw the sweat soaking through his shirt. She briefly noticed a change in his posture, a subtle shift that made him look less like a loser and more like a warrior. Lu Sheng watched her walk away, remembering when they were close before her own martial talent drove a wedge between them. He walked to the mirror and lifted his shirt, gasping at the sight of newly defined abdominal muscles. The dream had changed his physical body, confirming that the power he absorbed was very much real. At the dinner table, he ate with a ferocity that startled his parents, his body demanding fuel for its sudden evolution. His father chuckled, promising to buy more supplements to support his health, unaware of the miracle occurring within his son. After the meal, Lu Sheng knew he needed to test his actual strength at a proper facility. He walked into the local dojo, the air thick with the scent of sweat and the sound of thudding strikes. He approached the strength testing machine, a sleek metal device that could measure a warrior's raw output. He channeled the technique he learned from the future zombie, focusing all his energy into a single point. His fist slammed into the padding with a sound like a thunderclap, sending vibrations through the floorboards. The digital display flickered before settling on a number that made his breath catch. His combat power had doubled in a single night. If 1 hour of sleep did this, Lu Sheng wondered what would happen if he slept for an entire day. He returned home, but the excitement kept him awake, his mind racing with possibilities of reaching the elite ranks. To tire himself out, he began practicing the movements from his dream in the middle of the room. He completed the sequence 200 times, each repetition making the futuristic techniques feel like a part of his own soul. Finally, his body gave in to the fatigue, and he collapsed back into the dream world's embrace. This time, he found himself standing before a massive, ruined military base marked Base 1359. He explored the ruins until he found a flickering holographic interface that still functioned after 10 millennia. The terminal activated, revealing a terrifying history, the complete collapse of human civilization and his own early death in a future war. As he stared at the record of his doomed fate, a massive shadow loomed over the base's headquarters, watching him from the dark. Lu Sheng didn't flinch. He knew that if he could absorb the future, he had the power to rewrite it. But the roar that erupted from the shadows suggested that the future wouldn't give up its secrets without a fight. Lu Sheng stood before the training mirror, his breath hitching as he saw the physical changes etched into his skin. The memories of the future wasteland were no longer just dreams, they were a blueprint for his own evolution. At the dinner table, his sister Lu Xinghe watched him with a skeptical, piercing gaze. She didn't notice that his appetite had become as voracious as a high-ranking warrior's. Lu Sheng knew he needed a proper measurement to understand how far he had progressed in just one night. He stepped into the Hongchuan Martial Arts Academy, the scent of sweat and polished wood filling his lungs. The receptionist barely looked up from her desk, assuming he was just another amateur student. He paid the fee for a blood chi and combat power test, entering the private testing booth with silent resolve. As he placed his hand on the scanner, the machine hummed with a sudden sharp resonance. The display flickered, showing a blood chi level of 0.9, a massive leap from his previous 0.8. But Lu Sheng knew this was only the beginning of what the future memories could offer. Next, he faced the combat power machine, a heavy pillar designed to withstand tons of force. He recalled the strike of the zombie from his dream, channeling that raw, efficient violence into his arm. His fist slammed into the target with a thunderous crack that echoed through the entire facility. The digital numbers on the overhead monitor spun wildly before settling on an impossible value. Outside the booth, students and instructors froze, looking around for the source of the noise. Lu Sheng walked out of the booth, his expression as unreadable as a calm lake. The receptionist stared at the data on her console, her hands trembling as she reached for the phone. This kind of growth wasn't just a breakthrough, it was a phenomenon that demanded an investigation. Word quickly reached Master Hongguan, the rank 4 master who governed the academy. Meanwhile, back at school, the atmosphere had shifted around Lu Sheng. His old rival, a bully with a high blood chi, blocked his path with a sneer. Lu Sheng didn't even slow down, his presence alone creating a chilling pressure that made the bully hesitate. The larger boy felt a cold sweat break out, his instincts screaming at him to stay away. During the school's official testing day, the instructors were prepared for a routine session. Lu Sheng stepped up to the machine, his mind already back in the 10,000-year wasteland. He visualized the breathing technique of the future masters, his lungs expanding with a rhythmic glow. When he struck, the machine's alarm wailed as the sensor reached its maximum limit. The headmaster, watching from the sidelines, nearly dropped his tea as the record shattered. Lu Sheng was no longer a loser, he was a prodigy that the city could no longer ignore. Within hours, representatives from elite martial institutions were dispatched to his small home. His parents were overwhelmed, seeing men in prestigious uniforms offering scholarships and stipends. Lu Xinghe watched from the doorway, her previous arrogance replaced by a burgeoning sense of awe. But Lu Sheng wasn't interested in simple local fame. He had a world to save. He accepted an invitation to the Donging Province Prodigy Training Camp, the ultimate forge for rank 1 warriors. As he packed his bags, the weight of the future's martial knowledge felt heavier than ever. He boarded a military transport, leaving behind his ordinary life for a path of blood and iron. Other candidates on the bus looked at him with curiosity and hidden competitive fire. Lu Sheng simply closed his eyes, preparing to return to the nightmare world once more. But as he drifted off, he felt a presence in the dream world that was far more powerful than any zombie. A pair of crimson eyes opened in the darkness of the future, locking onto his soul with predatory intent. The predatory gaze from the future wasteland burned into Lu Sheng's memory even after his eyes snapped open in the physical world. He checked his hands, still feeling the phantom warmth of the blood he had spilled in the dream realm. The invitation to the Prodigy training camp lay on his desk, its gold-embossed seal shimmering under the morning sun. Within hours, Lu Sheng stood before the massive steel gates of the high-security training facility. Other young geniuses gathered at the entrance, their expensive gear and prideful stances marking them as the elite of their cities. They glanced at Lu Sheng's standard-issue clothing with barely concealed disdain. A massive instructor with a scarred face stepped forward, his presence alone silencing the crowd. He announced that the first trial would begin immediately, testing their fundamental physical limits. Lu Sheng followed the group into a chamber lined with pulsating gravity arrays. The gravity dial began to turn, steadily increasing the weight on everyone's shoulders. At 5 times gravity, many students began to sweat, their knees trembling under the pressure. Lu Sheng stood perfectly still, his breathing as calm as if he were taking a casual stroll. The instructor narrowed his eyes, noticing the boy who didn't seem to feel the weight at all. 10 times gravity was reached, causing several students to collapse onto the floor. Lu Sheng closed his eyes, visualizing the heavy atmosphere of the future wasteland to stabilize his core. The dial hit 15 times gravity, a level usually reserved for veteran warriors. Lu Sheng took a single step forward, the floor cracking beneath his foot from the immense concentrated force. The instructor realized he was witnessing a monster in human skin. When the test finally ended, only Lu Sheng remained standing upright among the groaning students. One of the collapsed geniuses glared at him, unable to accept that a nobody had outperformed him. Next came the agility trial, featuring a hallway filled with thousands of high-speed laser emitters. Each laser moved in a chaotic, unpredictable pattern designed to overwhelm the senses. Lu Sheng entered the corridor, his movements becoming a blur before the first laser could even track him. He used the 7-star footwork he had absorbed from a fallen master in the future wasteland. The tracking cameras struggled to keep his image in focus as he danced through the death trap. He reached the end of the 100-meter hall in less than 3 seconds. The scoreboard flickered before displaying a time that shattered the previous camp record by half. Lu Sheng turned back to the crowd, his eyes glowing with a faint, otherworldly intensity. The other students were paralyzed by a sudden, crushing sense of dread coming from him. The instructor realized that Lu Sheng wasn't just here to train, he was here to reign. Suddenly, the alarm system blared, signaling an unscheduled combat evaluation. A heavy mechanical door ground open, revealing a level 3 combat automaton. The instructor challenged Lu Sheng to take it down alone if he wanted to skip the introductory courses. Lu Sheng didn't wait for the countdown to finish. He lunged forward, his fist trailing a ripple of distorted air from sheer speed. The robot's reinforced chest plate caved in like thin paper under the blow. Without a second look, Lu Sheng walked past the wreckage as it sparked and died. The entire hall fell into a stunned silence that felt heavier than the gravity test. In the shadows of the upper balcony, a mysterious figure in a white lab coat watched intently. The figure noted that Lu Sheng's brainwaves were showing patterns identical to someone in a deep sleep. "He's fighting while his mind is still in the dream world," the figure whispered to themselves. Outside, the sky began to turn a sickly shade of purple, mirroring the atmosphere of the nightmare future. A massive crack appeared in the air above the training camp, leaking a dark, miasmic fog. Lu Sheng felt the change in the air and gripped his fist tight, sensing a familiar malice. The boundary between the dream and reality was starting to blur much faster than he had ever anticipated. The boundary between the dream and reality was starting to blur much faster than he had ever anticipated. Lu Sheng realized that to truly control his destiny, he needed more than just physical strength. He decided to officially verify his status as a psychic mentalist to unlock greater resources. Inside the association, the air was thick with the invisible pressure of many trained minds. He approached the testing station where a high-purity energy crystal waited for his touch. The moment his fingers brushed the surface, the crystal erupted with a blinding golden radiance. The monitors began to malfunction as his mental strength reading reached an unheard-of index of 113. Even more terrifying was his purity index, which soared to a staggering 126 points. The president of the association rushed in, staring at Lu Sheng as if he were a young god. Having obtained his level 4 certification, Lu Sheng turned his sights toward the national examination. The day of the exam arrived, and thousands of students gathered at the massive Jian Mountain Arena. Many students mocked the 7th Saint University, calling their representatives useless. Lu Sheng ignored the noise, focusing his breathing to align his internal golden energy. When his name was finally called, the atmosphere in the hall shifted instantly. He approached the blood-sampling needles, but they all bent upon contact with his skin. Panicked instructors brought out special-grade needles, but even those failed to pierce him. Next was the Combat Power Index test, featuring a dummy built for Rank 6 Masters. Lu Sheng unleashed his 20-fold star impact, merging it with his newly forged immortal golden body. The explosion was so powerful that the dummy was vaporized instantly. The testing instruments registered a combat power of 1.2 million, a value for Rank 7 Masters. Chief Big Mac and National Chief Shu watched the playback with trembling hands. Lu Sheng was officially crowned the Dragon Martial Scholar, the highest honor in the country. His victory earned him rewards totaling 50 million in cash and a luxury villa in the capital. Despite the fame, Lu Sheng knew his true battle was only beginning. He decided to join the 7th Saint Martial University to pursue their unique legacy. Upon arrival at the university, he was met with the tradition of freshman ragging. A senior wielding a massive sword attempted to intimidate him with a vital chi strike. Lu Sheng caught the blade with his bare hand and crushed the metal into dust. The surrounding students fell silent, realizing they were in the presence of a monster. During the welcoming ceremony, he was asked to give a representative speech. He declared that any student who doubted him could step forward and fight him all at once. Dozens of elite freshmen charged the stage, unleashing their unique elemental gifts. With a single wave of his hand, a golden shockwave cleared the entire room. He stepped off the stage, leaving a trail of unconscious prodigies behind him. Later, he entered the Marshal Saint Tower, determined to test his limits against the spirits of the past. He cleared 28 floors in record time, defeating the virtual projection of Saint Tanjong Yu. This achievement caught the attention of the real Marshal Saint, who offered to take him as a disciple. To everyone's shock, Lu Sheng refused, stating he would find his own path to the divine rank. His rejection set him on a collision course with the powerful Lin family and their master-level star leaders. As he meditated, his first immortal cell began to pulse with the power of a dying sun. Suddenly, the ground beneath the entire university began to shake violently without warning. Far away at the city's border, the sky turned a blood-red color as a level A rift opened. Lu Sheng felt a chilling resonance in his soul, realizing the nightmare 10,000 years away was arriving early. Lu Sheng arrived at the towering gates of St. Martial University, sensing an overwhelming aura that confirmed his decision to enroll. The registration staff froze in disbelief upon seeing his recommendation letter, realizing the legendary Dragon Martial Scholar was standing before them. A group of arrogant seniors attempted to intimidate the newcomers, initiating a traditional but brutal hazing ritual at the dormitory entrance. One senior unleashed a wave of vital qi, boasting that only the strong deserved to carry their luggage inside. Without even blinking, Lu Sheng dropped his bag and stepped forward, meeting the senior's gaze with chilling indifference. In a single fluid motion, Lu Sheng neutralized the attack and slammed the senior into the ground, leaving a crater in the reinforced pavement. The surrounding freshmen watched in awe as the supposedly unbeatable upperclassman was defeated in less than a second. Lu Sheng quickly settled into his new routine, dedicating every waking hour to refining his cold weapon techniques and immortal cells. He received a high-grade gift from the governor, the Scarlet Dragon Spear, which resonated perfectly with his internal fire energy. Entering the Marshal Saint Tower, he was transported to a virtual space where he faced the simulated will of the university's founder. Lu Sheng began a blitzkrieg through the tower, clearing floor after floor at a speed that the automated system could barely track. He realized the tower was siphoning his energy to reconstruct stronger versions of the Martial Saint, pushing him into a cycle of evolution. Outside, a crowd gathered in shock as the tower's ranking board updated every few seconds, showing Lu Sheng reaching the 28th floor. The vice principal rushed to the scene, unable to believe that a freshman was shattering records that had stood for half a century. Lu Sheng emerged from the tower with a cold aura, passing by the previous record holder and treating him like mere debris. Not satisfied with one victory, he began a systematic conquest of the other 6 St. Martial universities, capturing every tower in the country. He arrived at the first university, where the top-ranked student awaited him, claiming the legacy of the original Martial Saint was invincible. Lu Sheng simply released his master's will, a crushing spiritual force that melted the opponent's ice energy without a single move. He walked past the paralyzed genius, noting that if they had been in the same year, the boy would have only ever known second place. As the National University Championship began, Lu Sheng's reputation as the Demon King had already terrified half the participants. He advanced through the preliminary rounds without even entering the ring, as his opponents surrendered the moment his name was called. Finally reaching the finals, he faced the Dao twins, who used their family's forbidden demonic techniques to transform into monstrous forms. Lu Sheng allowed them to prepare their strongest move, curious to see if they could provide even a moment of pressure. With a single punch that carried the force of a falling star, he decimated the twins' transformation and sent them crashing into the medical bay. Standing over the wreckage, he addressed the entire stadium, declaring the entire competition a boring waste of his time. He pointed directly at the Supreme Master of the Dao Academy, Liang Jibei, and challenged him to a life-or-death duel on the spot. Infuriated by the disrespect, the master leaped into the ring, radiating the killing intent of a 7th-level grandmaster. Lu Sheng felt his blood boil with excitement, realizing this was the perfect whetstone to sharpen his martial path. The master initiated a monstrous transformation, his skin turning into green scales as he prepared a lethal strike to end Lu Sheng's life. Lu Sheng moved with godlike speed, merging his star impact with the divine whale law to create a punch that literalized a burning sun. The impact was so violent that Master Liang was vaporized instantly, leaving nothing behind but his boots and a shattered crater. As the stadium fell into a deathly silence, Lu Sheng casually turned to the tournament president and asked if he would like to be next. The vice principal rushed Lu Sheng out of the city, warning him that he had just declared war on a family backed by a martial saint. Lu Sheng refused to hide, stating that if the world wanted to bow to saints, he would simply have to become the one who conquered them. He returned home briefly to ensure his family's safety, knowing the Lin family's sister, the manic Liang Xiao, would seek bloody revenge. In her mansion, Liang Xiao erupted into haunting laughter upon hearing of her brother's death, swearing to send her best assassin to collect Lu Sheng's head. Lu Sheng used his dream realm insights to forage for secret gold and silver deposits, funding the creation of his first immortal cell. He shattered his own internal core to forge the cell, enduring an agony that would have killed a normal martial artist 10 times over. When the process finished, a single point of light appeared on his forehead, granting him a physical constitution that surpassed the limits of mortality. Suddenly, his immortal cells pulsed with a sharp warning, signaling that someone incredibly close to him was in mortal danger. Far away in an S-rank rift, a massive shadow loomed over his sister and his companion, its eyes fixed on their location. Lu Sheng felt a chilling resonance in his soul, realizing the nightmare 10,000 years away was arriving early. Lu Sheng arrived at the Eastern Military District base as spatial rifts began tearing the landscape apart. General Yu welcomed him personally, revealing that Lu Sheng had been promoted to a 12-star general due to his unprecedented combat records. The hero accepted his new rank, but immediately requested to be sent to the most dangerous sector of the rift. Before heading out, Lu Sheng retreated to his private quarters to attempt the dangerous process of forging immortal cells. He consumed a rare level 8 marrow liquid, feeling the violent energy of 1,000 monsters surge through his veins. His body entered a cycle of destruction and rebirth, with every cell being broken down and reforged with cosmic energy. A blinding flash signaled the success of his first immortal cell, granting him physical strength that far surpassed mortal limits. Suddenly, his immortal cells pulsed with a warning that someone close to him was in mortal peril. Lu Sheng grabbed his spear and sprinted toward the level AAA rift, ignoring all safety protocols. He arrived at the cave entrance just as a massive swarm of mutant beasts attempted to break through the defensive perimeter. With a thunderous roar, Lu Sheng lunged into the heart of the horde, vaporizing dozens of beasts with a single swing. He utilized the second phase of his perfected martial arts, sensing every flaw in the creature's movements before they could strike. Deep within the rift, he encountered a group of martial arts fanatics who had turned into cannibals to sustain their power. Their leader, a fallen hero from the previous generation, boasted of his demonic strength, but Lu Sheng saw only filth. One strike was all it took for Lu Sheng to incinerate the leader, his golden energy purifying the corrupted air. He pushed deeper into the 35th level, finally sensing the location of his missing allies, Qing Shu and her brother. He witnessed a giant worm-like mutant beast swallowing Qing Shu whole after her brother had been driven into a trance by the abyss. Lu Sheng's rage triggered a complete awakening of his stellar immortal body, radiating light that matched a sun. He dove into the hole the beast had made, tearing through the earth with his bare hands to reach the core of the abyss. Reaching the beast's stomach in the gray zone, he carved his way out and rescued Qing Shu before she could be digested. He shielded her with his own aura, standing firm against the oppressive black mist of the abyss. After securing the survivors, Lu Sheng confronted Dong Shangyi, the arrogant brother who had led them into this trap. He delivered a single blow that snapped the man out of his trance, reminding him that a true warrior never loses sight of those he protects. With the group safe, Lu Sheng cleared the remaining path back to the surface, killing hundreds of high-level beasts in a matter of minutes. He emerged from the cave carrying a mountain's worth of rare silver and gold materials to fund the next stage of his evolution. The military district celebrated his return, officially ranking him as the 4th strongest general in the entire eastern region. Lu Sheng looked at his hands, realizing that his journey from a sleeping student to a 12-star general was only the beginning. He knew that the true masters of the 10,000-year future were still waiting for him in his dreams. The destiny of humanity rested on his shoulders, and he was finally strong enough to bear the weight. He felt the resonance of his immortal cells, knowing that death would never be his end. The era of the martial god had officially begun, and no rift or monster could stop his light from shining. Qing Shu approached him on the balcony, her eyes filled with gratitude and a promise for their shared future. Together they looked toward the city, knowing that their world was safe under the protection of a god in human skin. Lu Sheng made a final vow to rewrite every tragedy he had seen in the wasteland of 10,000 years away. His story would be told for generations as the man who dreamt of a nightmare and turned it into a miracle. The rifts began to close as his very presence stabilized the fractured reality of his world. His family, now safe and honored, watched his achievements from the TV, knowing their son was humanity's shield. Lu Sheng entered his final dream of the night, not to fight, but to meet the masters as an equal. They raised their weapons in a final salute to the student who had finally surpassed all his teachers. With the future rewritten and the past mastered, the dream world martial god finally found true peace.